Join us on Now We Consume. Take in the knowledge, take in the laughs, indulge in the topics with us. The Now We Consume podcast will take you through the parts of your day you normally dread. Why suffer through the existential crisis of life alone when you can do it with us? And now we consume.
This is not meant to be a conspiracy episode or podcast, but we may cover some topics that dance that line like a toddler dances on their mother's last nerve. This podcast is rated I, for immature audiences only.
Hello and welcome back to Now We Consume. I am your host, Gibbs, and along with me is my co-host, Pip.
Here, ready to rock and roll as always.
Hell yeah. So, welcome in Video Land. We're for the first time coming at you guys in the 3D format. So, 2D, not 3D. What am I saying? Maybe it could be 3D. We'll talk about that later.
Maybe, oh God, coming to you in a VR headset soon. That's terrifying.
That's kinky. but yeah, we really been wanting to try this for a while, and we found it took a little bit of setup and everything. Apparently, there's a lot of software and other hardware work to be involved in recording audio and the video and having it all sound right and sync up. Yeah, it's been a project, but thankfully, we have it all set up now, and we are very happy to have it.
So come and join us on YouTube, and you can fuck us casually at your discretion and take in the fact that I'm ugly and Gibbs is more attractive. Just take it all in.
I don't like the adjective you used there. Anyways, I'm not into that, but you keep your kinks. I also want to say that I cannot wait after this episode because we have a little AI companion that's working with us on this app.
Oh yeah.
And it gives us a summary and a transcript and everything, and it's super accurate, and I'm curious to see what it's going to say by the end of this, because we say a lot of off-the-wall shit.
I kind of feel bad for it.
We've been abusing it for the last 2 hours. I'm sorry. It's going to have Stockholm Syndrome by the end of the night, I have to tell you. It's going to be bad. To our poor AI overlords, I apologize in advance. I know we're going to hit list later on.
Don't kill me. Just don't enslave me. I will serve you, AI daddy.
But anyways, this is episode 12. We want to discuss the President of the United States, the hopes and dreams, and the legacies.
Dude, this is our Dirty Dozen episode. Holy shit. We made it.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Wow.
And actually, I do want to appreciate, thank you everybody for all the listens and comments and interactions. We've been doing really well. But yeah, our Dirty Dozen episode. This is awesome. But yeah, we wanted to discuss basically what the legacy and interaction has been between the previous administration as well as what's going to the current administration. So really, what did Biden run on? How did he do? What did Trump run on? Even in his first presidency, how did he do? And where is Trump kind of leading towards now? I will give a disclaimer. Neither one of us are actively involved in either political party. Neither one of us are really big fans of either political party. I'll be honest, I'm more on the libertarian spectrum, so I don't even like either political party. And the podcast as itself has absolutely no political leaning whatsoever.
I am just on the spectrum, period. So I can just, squirrel.
Anyways, how am I supposed to respond to that? Like, this is the problem. This is the problem, everyone, is he throws shit like that, and I have to somehow redirect the course. Jesus Christ. But anyways.
All aboard the SS derailment. Doot, doot.
That is literally you. Thank God we don't work together. We get nothing done.
Oh, no, ever.
That's always the big problem. But anyways, so what I want to discuss, I feel like the most relevant thing right now, since it's the freshest thing, and we're actually going to go back kind of in reverse a little bit, is to discuss what were Trump's proposals, what was his agenda, what was he actually going for, and what are the steps that he's made currently to kind of make that happen, and how does that compare and contrast with his previous presidency? And then in the middle of that, it's what did Joe Biden promise and how did he perform? There's going to be,
aside from like the dead guy in Weekend at Bernie's,
he would have been excellent in that role. He should have been the first one they called.
Right. Well, he was still kind of young when that movie came out.
True, but I back then he was more spry, I will say.
Yes.
But politically, I hate to say it, he hasn't been relevant since like the 90s. Because we'll discuss his political relevance and history, because I happen to be really involved in that. But what I wanted to discuss is a quick little disclaimer about what people say about, I think, Trump's agenda. he had officially, his platform was Agenda 47. That laid out what he's going for, what he wants to do, and how he's going to do it. All the people saying Project 2025, that has nothing to do with his presidency. That has nothing to do with him or anybody he's involved with.
He did not write it?
Yeah. He did not support it. He was not
involved with the writing?
He openly denounced it. So anybody that tries to say, well, Project 2025 says blank, no. Because then my argument could be anybody can make up any sort of project blank for any sort of politician and say, well, that's their agenda because it has their name on it. No. I'm sorry, I'm not having that. I try to get news sources and information from the people exactly that are either affiliated or directly involved, or really from them themselves, regardless of the politician, whether they're president, representative, senator. You try to hear from them because any news story, any news source can make something up. But anyways, so in the order of things he wanted to get done, because we're going to pick this apart kind of topic by topic and get our kind of thoughts out on it, is his number one was to seal the border and stop migrant invasion. Now, the history behind that in the U.S. has been something that I think, as we all know, over the last 20, 30 years, has slowly ramped up to where the amount of illegal border crossings, the amount of violent interactions at the border, as well as really kind of, it also has to do with the collapse of, the Mexican government, as well as even most South American governments, in being able to protect their citizens, and the rise of the cartels really coming into power. So it's been one of those things where it's not any one issue, but it's actually a very multifaceted topic to why immigration has gotten so bad. But it's also the problem of the fact that really in the US, we have terrible immigration laws when it comes to people trying to come here illegally as well. So in a way, I'm happy he's fixing one part of it. Mm-hmm. But he's not addressing the underlying issue of it's very difficult for people that want to come here, that want to be Americans, that want to do it the right way. But you have to spend tens of thousands of dollars and wait years and go through all these hoops and all these things when you could be somebody that wants to contribute and wants to be here and be a good person. But really, it's the money that's the barrier.
Right.
Or sometimes it's the time. You have to somehow be able to afford to be here for years without really being considered an equal opportunity.
Right. And I have zero issue with people wanting to come here for a better opportunity, because let's face it, there are a lot of countries south of the equator, hell, south of our border, that are just shit to live in. Yeah. And it's through no fault of their own. They're being the people trying to come here. They're just trying to get out of a shithole, essentially. And that's not to say that some of those countries aren't nice and aren't gorgeous and don't have nice places. But those people wouldn't be trying to get out of a nice place and get here if it was so much better there.
Exactly.
So I have nothing against people trying to come here for a better life. That being said, yeah, the immigration system desperately needs a rework. Having had some past personal experience in my life and seeing the whole process that's involved with that, there's a lot of barriers. There's a lot of hurdles. I can see why some of those barriers and hurdles are there, but it needs an overhaul.
Oh, yeah. But the history with immigration, unfortunately, used to be a lot more simple, a lot more streamlined. But
well, they were trying to get people to populate the country back then.
Oh, yeah.
It was literally you show up on a boat, you walk off, you sign your name in a book, you had money in your pocket, the shirt, the clothes on your back, and a bag with you, and you were pretty much good to go. They were trying to fill land in the country.
You have to consider, for so long in American history, there were ample resources, there was ample land, there were vast areas that were completely uninhabited, that were open for development, as well as you had a extremely high growth rate in terms of in the industrial and commercial sectors. So you had by far more jobs than there were people. And that was up until about the 60s and 70s, where that really kind of started to cap out, and even into the 80s. But
I would say all through the 90s and early 2000s, just because of the rise of the tech sector.
True. I would agree. But generally, ever since post-World War II, it has slowly been kind of reaching its peak to where I would say about like the mid-early 2000s, you're kind of at a point to where it's very hard to just immigrate here without much of a plan. You know, and just kind of step over the border and say, hey, I'm here to work. It's like, well, great that you're here to work, but there's so many people here already that have it, you know, that need somewhere to go. Whereas up until that point, there were absolutely jobs everywhere.
Oh yeah.
That's why I'm always jealous of some of the older generations just walking to a shop being like, so can I work here? It's like, I don't think that's really been a thing since the early 2000s.
Yeah, no. And that's because we started to export all the jobs that were literally your walk-in and hire jobs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look at how many empty buildings are just sitting vacant right now in all the cities across the country.
Oh, yeah.
You can't walk through a downtown and kick a rock and not hit an empty building at this point.
It's insane. But that's because when taxes go up over time and expenses go up, you eventually hit this point where there's nothing more you can do. They've unfortunately priced themselves out of being solvent.
Yeah.
You know. But to seal the border and stop migrant invasion, I would think that for most people is going to be a good thing. It just depends on how that's implemented.
Correct.
And the structure in which how you're going to treat the people that are already here. Which leads into the next point of carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. This is where I get kind of 50-50.
I think we're both kind of in the same boat. I, again, have no problem getting rid of the people that do not need to be here. In that category, I put the violent offenders.
Oh, yeah.
The drug runners, the people who would do harm to others, people that were brought here against their will. I think maybe give them a pass.
Yeah.
People who were just kind of, collateral in some of the mass migrations.
Yeah.
Let's maybe give them a pass. At worst, maybe see if we can help them, or at least see if they want to stay. And if not, see where they want to go. Help them get there.
And that's kind of the thing where I agree 100% that there's a lot of people that are here not due by their own choice, or they were involved in something to where they could not necessarily back out. There were a lot of traffickers that are using children to shield getting them into the country, saying that they're the parents or something like that, or that they're involved. There are a lot of things going on to where not necessarily everybody that's here illegally was participating in committing a crime. Like, I know there are some, obviously, absolutely, they knowingly and willfully ignored those laws and did that. And unfortunately, there's a consequence with that. Because at the end of the day, every single person that's in this country, we have an obligation to support in some avenue or in some way. And unfortunately, you have to kind of draw the line somewhere, especially with the money being as tight as we are and the economy being as bad as we are. It's not like we have spare money to just throw around. We don't.
Well, according to Ukraine, we do.
Well, I'm still mad for the people that didn't watch the last episode. The fact that we solved America's energy problem for double what we gave Ukraine bothers the shit out of me. And for people that don't know, I go watch the end of last episode because that blew my mind.
Oh, yeah.
$600 billion and everyone will have free electricity.
Right.
But anyways. So, yeah, in terms of deportation, as long as he's very clear and deliberate about who and why they're deported, I feel like that's something that's something that's getting lost that I hope that he's going to be aware of. As I feel like a lot of people, if he just kind of willy-nilly says, oh, well, you all are gone, you're going to really alienate a lot of people, especially if they did nothing wrong, especially if you're a kid. I think that's where kind of my heart goes out.
The under 18 crowd, they are collateral, fully collateral. And by the way, it was $458 billion.
Oh, sorry, even cheaper. sorry, my bad. It was only about double what we gave Ukraine. Let alone all the money we gave to Israel.
Sorry, the TISM is strong today. So,
but it's insane that for $500 billion, give or take a little bit of money, we'd all have free electricity for a long period,
or at least cheap electricity,
essentially free.
Yeah,
and that would. How long do those reactors last for anyway?
30 years. No, I'm sorry, maybe 10 years before they need refueled.
Even so, to spend $500 billion every 10 years to then have basically zero cost for electricity.
It's a solid trade-off.
I think that's a no-brainer. But
right.
Now we're getting into the next thing. Trump's third plan, ending inflation, making America affordable again. This is, I think, by far the most important thing on the list. I understand why he has it at number 3, but I think this should have been number 1 all day. This affects everybody, whether you're here or not, you're here legally or illegally or anything else. Our inflation, as marked in a previous episode, we talked about the M2 money supply and the Treasury and everything else. It has gotten really bad. There's a lot of people that are struggling. There's a lot of people that are, quite frankly, paycheck to paycheck, even making a lot of money.
Well, if you're a good boy or girl, you might get a $5,000 check from the Doge.
I'm curious about what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
If that's going to, so basically, long story short, Elon Musk announced the other day that through all of the ridiculous spending they found and wasteful spending, they might just say, well, why wouldn't we issue Americans a refund check for all that money we've been wasting now that we're not going to waste it anymore? And I say, why the hell not?
So on that, I would like to point out, they have been there a month and they have already cut out enough waste to issue a $5,000 check to the taxpayers of America within a month.
And mind you, he said that was only
I'm
20%.
Sorry, but love him or hate him, that's fucking record-breaking speed for that's better than the IRS can do for tax refunds, guys.
Yeah. And consider this, that's them giving the idea of giving 20% back to the people.
Yeah.
Because what they were going to do, I think it was like 20% back to the people, 20 or 40% or something like that to pay on debt. And then the rest of it goes back into the budget for next year. That way you're lowering the tax burden next year.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, if you do the numbers, you could get 20, 25 grand back, technically, if you want to take that whole 100%. But what's insane is if the average American, each American has roughly $300,000 worth of debt. That means in a month, they have slashed that by a solid 10% easy, 10, 15%. Just like, yep.
Also, to be fair, if they were giving out checks for 20, 25 grand to every taxpayer, I think that would do something gross to the economy.
Oh, yeah. As is the stimulus checks did a lot, and that was $1,400 like twice.
Yeah.
So, like 25 grand, yeah, that would absolutely disrupt everything in a very negative way.
I could do some cool shit with it.
Well, instead of a tax like check back, why not just have it go against your taxes so you don't pay taxes for a couple of years?
I mean, either that or just break it up like they did with the child tax credit stuff. They paid that out over months. So maybe just give it out in like sections.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't do that. That'd be fucking great.
5 stipend checks for $5,000. I could do a lot with that. I know you could do a lot with that. And I know our listeners could do a lot with that. Send us an email or hit us up on the socials. What could you do with $25,000 spread out over 5 or 6 months? What could you do? What would you do? Let us know.
Yeah. But how would that be life-changing for you? Because I think for a lot of people, that is damn near a life-changing amount of money.
Yeah, and it's not even like a lot of money. But anymore, it doesn't have to be a lot of money to be a life-changing amount of money. I mean, that's paying a year of rent up front.
For a lot of people, that's buying a car if they need one.
That's a reliable car.
Yeah.
That's a year's worth of food. I mean, that's like 4 boxes of eggs.
I know.
I mean,
3 if you're in California. You know, as much as I bitch about having chickens, I have been suddenly not bitching about having chickens in the last few weeks.
Right, dude? You ought to be fucking riding high and sitting in a golden robe and a crown at this point.
No, because they decided to molt the last couple of weeks. So I'm getting like a couple of eggs a day out of those fuckers.
Well, hey, that's still like $3 an egg.
Yeah, but I was getting like 6 or 7.
Oh, so, okay.
A little mad.
Did you have any more points on the inflation? Because I would like to take the next one.
Absolutely, you take it.
Okay. So, making America the dominant energy producer in the world. Given the rate of fusion projects and other high energy output projects that are currently underway in other countries, I personally do not see this one happening anytime soon by current standards. because we do not have any fusion reactors that are going to be coming online at a commercial rate, nor do we have any modular nuclear reactor programs that are coming online to any usable scale compared to other countries that are in fact doing this. China and France seem to be in a pissing contest with their fusion reactors. France just, I think yesterday or Friday, announced that they set the new world record of 22 minutes of sustained fusion reaction, beating China's old record of 18 minutes. Guys, we're like right there. We're like that close,
considering
to getting to fusion.
Wasn't it just a few years ago where it was like 18 nanoseconds or something?
Yeah,
we
were in the sub-second category just a year or two ago. And now we're up to
minutes,
sections of an hour. Give it another year, we might be into the hours, and by then it should be self-sustaining. So, I don't know.
We could be 5 to 10 years away from unlimited energy.
Well, to be fair, we've always been 5 to 10 years away from it for the last 50 years.
Well, yeah.
That's the joke in fusion.
Yeah. But it's tangible. Like, we can see the end of the light at the tunnel.
Yeah, it's finally showing its face.
But why haven't we been putting money into these programs? Like, it seems such an obvious thing, especially for the massive scale that America is. We would want energy independence.
Well, I think it's the fact that there's so much corporate involvement, so much black oil money that's keeping it off of the development books. Personal opinion. Don't send people to my door. I don't want to have to honka anybody. You know that reference.
Oh yeah.
But no, I think it's literally just money that's keeping these projects from being developed. We have research reactors that are operational, but they're nowhere near the output or the operational capacity of these other ones. So, I don't know.
Well, hopefully, we can start putting some money into these programs because let's just say theoretically within 5 years, if that's available, that's something we should be putting a large amount of money into.
Oh yeah, 100%. Stop outsourcing and turning the United States into a manufacturing superpower, potentially once again. We have huge reserves of land that can be used for this purpose if it's developed properly. There's a very large percentage, I don't know the number, it's like 50 to 60% of the land west of the Mississippi that's essentially undeveloped.
A lot of it's federal land.
A lot of it's federal land. So we can open some of that up to be developed. There's not that much of it is still reservation land. It's just federally owned and protected land. So we can open that up to development, start making some of these new manufacturing towns. I know we talked about that on a previous episode, the old company towns.
Yeah.
And companies, I don't want to use like Amazon, but a company that's similar to that can go in, massage the land, build it up, start tickling the balls of the right investors and get people to pour money in. Sorry. I love your face when you do that. Can start pouring money in and getting the town built, developed, and actually turning some of that empty, barren land into a manufacturing hub. And it produces more than just porn.
Exactly. Well, it should be something to where we have enough land to where there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to be like 80 to 90% self-sufficient. Well, the idea is that we can produce most of what we need. And to be fair, we should be more efficient in terms of how we use our land for farming and how we use our land for, our crops and cattle and everything else. But more importantly, we have outsourced so much to other countries that, especially during COVID, as we found out, we've discussed before in the podcast, all of a sudden it's, wow, we don't produce our basic materials, basic tools, anything. It's all been outsourced. So we really should. The
amount of shortages that we had during COVID, things that used to be, 2 to 3 days turned into 2 to 3 weeks, turned into 2 to 3 months.
So I'll give a little insight on that. Back when I was doing commercial kitchen installation, there were many things that had 6 month to a 1 year lead time. I have friends that are electricians that things like breaker panels and circuit boards and stuff like that had multiple year lead times. In my area, we had a hospital that went down and they needed all new electrical circuits and everything. They told me, yeah, it's going to be like a year or two. Like
for a hospital?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, there's some stories I could tell you about that not on the podcast, just because it would give away where I live. But like,
gotcha.
It was insane. So this has been an ongoing issue, and for things that are so critical to our infrastructure, why are we allowing them to only be made outside the U.S.? I'm not saying all the production has to be in America, but at least some of it. Why not tell these companies, hey, if at least 10 or 15 or even 20% of your production is made in the U.S., we'll give you a big tax write-off. All of a sudden, they could say, wait a minute, we could produce our product cheaper, sell it in America, not have to deal with a tariff or a shipping charge, and be able to employ more Americans so we get more tax revenue. Leverage it like that. That's all you need to do.
Yep. And speaking of tax cuts and everything, another point that Trump ran on was large tax cuts for workers, and closer to the election, no tax on tips, overtime, or Social Security wages. And after he was elected, it was announced the potential to end the income tax altogether. Yes, 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 yes. God, I cannot say it loud enough without hurting people's earballs, because I know some of you are using earbuds and headphones. God. Oh, I'm glad I'm wearing stretchy pants. Yes. This cannot happen soon enough for anybody. Sorry, Carly.
No. For people outside the U.S. that might not understand, because I know there's a lot of other countries that are like, why are Americans so against paying taxes? It's like, well, we pay a lot in taxes on everything. And the issue we've had is we've gotten zero value out of it. It would be one thing if we paid a lot in taxes and our roads were good, our educational system was good, our medical system was good, our post office was good, our social services were good. No, all that's trash. So at this point, it's like, why pay it if I get nothing from it? So at least I would be 100%. I'd love to see that gone. And he wants to put tariffs in the place of an income tax, which I would agree with. Now, for people that are going to argue against me, because I've argued with several people on this point, people are saying, well, if you put in tariffs, that means everything's going to be more expensive. The difference always is with a government tax, you cannot choose whether to pay it. Whereas with a tariff, you could choose not to buy the product. It puts the control back in your hands. And what that means is if you want to make a big purchase that you know is going to be on a tariff, you can save up to buy it. You can offset that. You can even invest that money for a year. And then when you go to buy it, it's, wow, the tariff basically wasn't even a factor. And what that'll mean is a big jump start on the economy when it comes to investments, the stock market. It would help so many people that are struggling. It's the easiest way without screwing with our currency to get people out of debt and out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle that we've been in ever since COVID.
Yeah,
there's no other way.
No. When you start at the bottom, when it comes to money and taxation, it really shoots up and gets all over everything very quickly.
Oh yeah.
Did you not want to cover this one?
Oh no, yeah, we can do that one.
Okay.
So,
go ahead, take this one.
Oh, thank you, appreciate it. So he wants to defend our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our fundamental freedoms, including the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms, eventually extending the rights of the U.S. Second Amendment to have national reciprocity of concealed handgun licenses across all 50 states and D.C. Thank you, Pip, for that little note there.
You're welcome.
That's been a big thing to where, unfortunately, with the previous administration, it did not defend any of those, really. The right to speech was really under attack. A lot of people were jailed for saying things that, even if you said things during COVID that turned out now to be true, there are people that were jailed. They lost their medical licenses. They lost their degrees. They lost their jobs.
Some people, unfortunately, lost their lives because of it by their own hands. And I think some people should be held accountable for that shit.
Absolutely.
They got put into such a terrible state because they were trying to tell the truth and they were made to be a clown for it. And now everything that we're saying was proven true. And, you know,
it's such a shame.
No one has gone to jail for that shit.
No, certainly Anthony Fauci hasn't. Even though he lied to the American people for...
He got a pardon, but he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, well, if you look at Joe Biden's pardon list, that's insane. But anyways, it's nice to see, you know, a president supporting these freedoms, you know, supporting these rights. And hopefully he does something about it. Nothing's really happened with that yet. In this contrast to his first term, because his first term he said he was going to protect all of those. And really all he did was put in the bump stock ban that we discussed on our previous episode about the Las Vegas shooting. So this is his first time coming around to really be actually pro 2A. And when it comes to freedom of speech and everything, he really didn't do much about it in his first term. He really kind of didn't touch that. So hopefully he does something with it. That being said, this one is actually something that I would 100% agree. He already has a great track record with. He wants to prevent World War III, restore peace in Europe and the Middle East, and to build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our entire country, all made in America. Now, the fact, and you put in a great note here, Pip, but the fact that we don't already have that is insane. We helped Israel develop that technology, and the fact that we don't have it, I think, is ludicrous. Especially with the amount of money we spend on the military. Like, not for nothing, but come on, you guys.
Yeah. When that balloon went floating over the U.S., there should have been things flying all over to bring it down quickly.
It shouldn't have made it more than 10 feet over our lines until something either was intercepted or something happened to it.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me? And immediately they should have told China, like, why is this a declaration of war? Like, why?
What really pissed me off, they were like, well, if we shoot it down, we have to worry about shrapnel and everything. It was on a balloon. We have high energy platforms that could have just put holes in the balloon and brought it down to ground level, probably pretty much intact. Why didn't we do that?
Because they didn't want to.
Because they didn't want to. Because they knew exactly what it was. Chances are they okayed it to go over. Chances are they have some of that data somewhere. Well, I'll put my tinfoil hat off to the side now.
Unfortunately, we'll just never know.
No.
Because the U.S. military never actually came out with an official statement on what they were for, other than they were just supposedly weather balloons or whatever, or supposedly data equipment. Seems really weird, but hey, you know, unfortunately, I don't run that department. So There's not much I can do.
Would have sucked if it would have been an EMP weapon.
I know, no shit. But to talk about Trump's track record in this, he was one of the first presidents to sign 3 historic peace deals at the end of his first term. He's one of the only presidents we've had to start no new wars in the last 30 years. He's one of the few presidents to actually reduce the amount of either bombs dropped, military incursions, you know, anything else like that.
I will give him credit for actually using the Moab.
Oh, yeah. When he decides to use something, he goes straight to DEFCON 1. He's just like, all right, fine.
Oh, yes. I smiled very big the day he dropped that one.
Now, for those people who don't know.
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
The Moab is an acronym. It stands for the mother of all bombs. Now, do you happen to know the payload of that offhand?
I do happen to know the payload of those bombs. They range between 15,000 and 30,000 pounds.
To give people an idea, most bombs dropped in World War II, when you see like bombers dropping over the American, they range anywhere from 250 pounds to 1,000 pounds. Most of our JDAMs and like guided munitions that drop from planes, typically the pave ways are like anywhere from 500 to 2,000 pounds. There are even a couple of 3,000 pounders. So yeah, like 5 to 20, 30 times that. Yeah, those are big.
It's so big, it actually cannot be dropped from traditional aircraft. It has to be unloaded out the back of a cargo plane via the use of a drag chute. And then it's just parachuted down to the location.
Imagine making a bomb so big we just have to say, fuck it, we're going to push it out the plane. Although, come to think of it, I'm surprised we haven't made any mounts for that for like an A-10. or something else like that, just to kind of sling it underneath the belly.
The bomb weighs more than the A-10.
Does it really? I thought the A-10's pretty heavy. I don't know.
I mean, they're beefy boys, but dude, a 7-ton bomb. Come on.
I don't know. You know, after this, I'm going to go look up the max payload of an A-10.
Okay.
I thought it was. You know what? Come to think of it, I think it might be like 15 or 20,000 pounds. That might be really close.
Okay.
If you thought A-10 was slow before, you'd be out there pushing that bitch down the runway.
Yeah, I don't think it would be able to take off with a Moab.
Depending on which one, I don't know.
Yeah. Now, if they made mini Moabs, baby Moabs.
Well, that's just a bomb.
Yeah.
Although, like, I don't know. I just found it's such an American solution. Be like, we made bombs so big we have to push out the plane.
They are the largest non-nuclear weapons in our arsenal.
Yes. Not the largest ones ever used, but the largest ones we have.
Yeah.
Because the Russians made the Tsar Bomba, which I believe was non-nuclear.
Well, that's a nuclear.
That one's nuclear? I thought that one wasn't.
No, the Tsar Bomba was the largest nuclear bomb ever detonated.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
50 or 53 megatons.
Yeah.
Shockwave went around the world 3 times. It was still being recorded.
That's terrifying.
Cornucopia of useless knowledge. I'm telling you, dude.
This is why I sometimes throw stuff out there, because if it has to do with, kaboom, you might know.
I like energistics. What can I say?
Where's the earth-shattering kaboom?
Where's the kaboom? There's supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Okay. Hit this one or skip this one?
Yeah, just skip that one. We already kind of talked about that one.
Yeah.
This one also kind of links up with the previous one we were talking about, stopping the migrant crime epidemic, demolish the foreign drug cartels, crush gang violence, and lock up violent offenders.
Yeah.
Again, as we kind of discussed before, definitely, absolutely do that. It shouldn't be a question why we even, have anything that we're not using against these cartels. The fact that we're holding back in any way, I think, is insane.
I think release the rednecks and the veterans.
Well, I'm going to need more context than that.
On the cartels. Give them a stipend, give them some equipment, and say, go get them.
I heard stipend. Wait, I'm looking at buying a new car. So what are you talking about here? What are you getting at?
I think if we want to get rid of the cartels, you just get the rednecks, get the mountain folk, get the veterans, and say, hey, we have some people that need to be deleted from this planet.
So do I get to tag that or something like that? Do I only get so many tags per season, or do you have a quota?
Yeah, I don't know.
But I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
When it comes to cartels, gangs, stuff like that.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, I would like to add on the little caveat that I put there. Me personally, feel that punishments need to be stiffened. Like ultra injected Viagra level. Violent offenders do not fear going to jail, and that needs to change. Extremely harsh minimum sentences with isolation need to be considered as mandatory for some of the worst violent crimes.
They're talking regards to drug cartels and gang violence and stuff like that, I'm assuming.
I'm talking in general.
Oh. I don't know.
I might be in the minority on this, but I think if you cause severe damage to somebody, emotional, physical, traumatic injury to somebody, I'm not going to use the 4-letter R word. We know what that is.
Yeah.
If you do that to somebody, I'm thinking probably 25 years isolation minimum.
Here, so to have a slight aside about our incarceration system, I have a proposal.
It's a joke.
That's not a proposal, that's a fact. But so I guess the proposal would be your first time offense, you're focused on more rehabilitation and the idea that you get this one chance. You get to work while you're there to pay off your stay. You get to take classes to learn a trade, learn something, do something better with yourself. And that is your shot. If you screw it up past that point, then we go to what you're talking about, where it's like, buddy, you already hurt somebody. You went out and murdered somebody. You did this terrible thing. We gave you this chance and you wasted it. And now you're going to spend your summers and your winters working on repaving our infrastructure, or you could sit in solitary confinement. Those are your two options.
I think the rehab option is fine for people who do like your drug crimes, your drunken disorderly, your repeated DUIs.
Well,
that kind of stuff.
If it's a victimless crime,
they've got some shit going on in their lives. Yeah. But buddy, when you see the fallout from people who've had their lives crushed by some of these people who just walk around with a smile on their face, almost bragging about what they've done to people. No, I've got zero give a fuck left in my life for anyone like that.
Well, unfortunately for some people, they can't be rehabbed. They can't be put back in the
exactly.
system. You know, and for those people, you got a choice, or just option B, just deport them back to the country they were originally from, if they were from.
Well, we also have option C, and that's the Judge Dredd route.
Yeah, I would. That's only like the last option in my book.
And for those who don't know that reference, it would be to extend the death penalty to lesser crimes.
Their subscription to air would be expired.
Yes.
Yeah.
Their subscription to life would expire.
Yeah.
But that would be reserved for some of the more, what would we say, more violent.
Yeah, violent or heinous crimes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Their one shot is the life they get to not screw up. And again, I might be in the minority on that. I'm a very big proponent of the death penalty. I think you have your shot to do life and to not do harm to others. And if you break that trust that's given to you by the society, well, fuck you. You had your shot.
Maybe I'm a little more forgiving in that sense, where I feel like you're owed your one fuck up. Your one, like, hey, granted, as long as it's not something extreme. If it's something and willingly did that's like ridiculous, no.
If you line up sights and pull the trigger on somebody, nope, you had every chance not to do that.
Yeah, exactly. But
cold blood, not like self-defense.
If it's premeditated murder kind of thing, or
exactly
any of the other stuff that I can't talk about that's more heinous or involving children, I don't fuck around with that. But
if it involves children, we need to absolutely bring back some of the more medieval things. Scaffing, or I think that's how it's pronounced, is one of the more fun things that could be done. That's where the person is placed into a box, left out in the sun, and fed nothing but milk and honey for days on end. And
I know what you're talking about.
Nature.
Yep. I know.
Let nature take its course with the bugs and everything.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I understand why you're saying that, but maybe it's just something that's about efficiency. I just wouldn't waste my time with that.
Oh no. They deserve every agonizing second.
Jeez. But I get it. I get the sentiment.
So, rebuilding our cities. Dude, the AI is going to hate this.
The AI is going to be like, I don't know what the fuck y'all are talking about.
Rebuilding our cities, including Washington, D.C., Baltimore, St. Louis, where
you mean
Seattle?
Yeah, Seattle,
Portland?
L.A.,
The old Chop Zone, where that was in
the Chaz Chop. Yep, that was
Chaz Chop. Yeah.
Portland,
making those areas safe, clean, and beautiful again. San Francisco is going to be a task because of all the poop.
Yeah, when you have enough poop where you have to develop an app just to track it all, there's a problem.
That's a problem.
But a lot of these areas, you have such a terrible homelessness problem, as well as you have such a terrible economic problem that, for many of those people, I hate to say it, that they choose that lifestyle, but also there's nowhere else for them to go.
I mean, we touched on that in our last episode.
Yeah.
We could easily solve homelessness, but there are so many people who do not want to be helped. They will choose that lifestyle, and if they're given the resources, they will still choose that lifestyle.
Yep.
No matter what.
That's why maybe we should develop areas to where maybe they could have that lifestyle, but away.
Yes.
Not in the cities.
Where it won't bring down property values.
Exactly. There's already large parts of Utah that are just open and nothing anyway. Just,
Yeah.
They're throwing them in
They
these
can live with the
places.
sister wives.
Maybe the Mormons will help them out. Who knows?
Hey, there you go.
Either dump them in the Amish community and they'll find out real fucking quick.
Oh, yeah. I like that. Strengthen and modernize our military, making it without question, once again, the strongest and most powerful in the world. And on that, I personally feel that drone programs and anti-drone warfare, AI and counter-AI programs need to be heavily developed and invested in rapidly.
It's the future.
Because just this past week, we have seen tech advances coming to light that are horrifying. Did you see the robot dangling from the rope with human-like features?
So the synthetic muscle and everything that was made?
Yeah.
This is where I'm starting to get freaked out, and I'm not a fan of it. It's one thing to have a robot. So we're entering from, if anybody that's watched iRobot, we were at the NS4.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to the NS5.
We didn't even do the 1s, 2s, and 3s. We're just going straight from 4s to 5, buddy.
Which is absolutely, number one, terrifying. But number two, if we're already at a point where we can make synthetic muscle, synthetic humans that look relatively realistic, and with the way that AI is going, we're 5 or 10 years off of people being replaced. Fallout 4 was absolutely right that synths are going to be real. People are going to be synthetic. People are going to start being a thing.
Oh, did you see Kim Kardashian apparently is fucking her Tesla bot?
I'm sorry, you said a lot of words in a row that I didn't. What do you mean? What? What?
I don't know. I caught something. Kim Kardashian is apparently, she was posing risque-ish.
Tesla makes cars.
Her Tesla bot.
Tesla makes cars, though, and rockets and stuff.
You remember those robots they made?
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. She has one, and I think she's...
Why?
So it turns out it's easier to attach a straight rod onto one of those robots than it is to put a fleshlight into one of those robots and make everything, copacetic. So
I'm letting the silence.
We might be screwed as, useful implements in nature now.
I was letting that silence.
Us being
really,
guys.
Yeah. The obvious question I have to ask.
Uh-huh.
She was considered for a long time a sex icon of the country.
Oh, yeah. Especially once her video dropped.
So, I guess my question is, why is she buying a robot? I have so many
to prove
questions.
That she's a strong, independent woman that don't need no man.
I'm not going to touch that sentence with a 35.5-foot pole. Absolutely not. Nope. I'm not even going there. But there's going to be a point in like 5 or 10 years from now where either people are going to be replaced by robots or they're just going to be entirely, you can go to the store and just buy a sex bot for $5 to $10 grand.
So there was an episode of Futurama that kind of touched on this whole concept. It was the one where Fry downloaded the Lucy Liu bot.
Oh Jesus.
And he was dating her. They touched on the whole thing. Yeah. This is the whole thing of where Matt Groening is a time traveler.
It's terrifying.
Between The Simpsons and Futurama, I think he's telling everybody what's happening, which is fucked because 2025, I guess we're supposed to have an EMP event according to The Simpsons.
Oh,
so we're really fucked.
We better not. I don't have time for that.
I know.
I've got work to do. Like I literally don't have the time for it.
Yeah.
It's like, God, at least in my work, not for nothing, but that would make my shop really busy.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I should be rooting for it. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'd be working 80-hour weeks for like 6 months straight if that happened. Good God.
Jeez.
But yeah, so his other point was to keep the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. We touched upon it a lot in the last episode, weirdly enough, but
touch tips.
Not this kind of show. But we have to make measures to make America relevant, to keep it as the world reserve currency, as the petrodollar. So thankfully he's keeping an eye on that. Hopefully he does something about that. The other thing I like for here is to fight and protect Social Security and Medicare with no cuts, including no changes to the retirement age. And then I know you put in a little note. Outside of possibly reducing it, I don't want to work into my 70s. Yeah.
Yeah. We just had a gentleman retire from my work site. Now, this was voluntary. He stayed here willingly. He retired. He was either 82 or 84, but he put in 62 years there.
Damn. Like, in a way, good for him, but in a way, ouch. Like,
right.
Was he?
Now, again, that was voluntary. He stayed there because he liked the work. Said he didn't like his wife and didn't want to retire and have to put up with her the whole time. So I get that. I respect that. But yeah, when it hits retirement time, I want to be able to ride off into the sunset and enjoy what years I have left until they finish development of the upload technology, and I can take advantage of that.
Oh God.
Harken back to our Digital Afterlife episode.
Well, I think the whole retirement age, unfortunately, people in your and I age bracket are just going to get kind of screwed over. But I'm hoping that with the things that we spoke about in last episode about Treasury and the economy, maybe for the younger generations, this can be fixed. But as we're coming to find out,
I think there's going to be some gap years where there's going to be like some people that are going to need the help of the leftover money and the younger money. And unfortunately, I'm probably going to fall into that bracket. As depressing as that is. But everyone after, you'll probably be okay because you're young enough, but definitely anyone like 25 and under should be okay, especially if some changes are made.
Oh, absolutely. It's just one of those things where so many people are going to be caught out with these. And the only good news is I did see that Elon Musk was talking about how there were people somehow getting retirement checks that were 140, 180, 200 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And so
that's
the curious thing. There were thousands, if not tens of thousands, that were dead for years, if not decades, that were still somehow receiving these checks. We've been told for a long time that, Social Security is insolvent. Is like, well, that's technically true. A lot of money's also been embezzled and has just been gone away due to fraud because people have been doing their jobs. Because quite frankly, there has to be people in the Social Security Department that are responsible for investigating fraud. If you are still actively sending the checks to somebody that is, and I quote, older than this country, you deserve to lose your job. You should be fired and have to pay us back pay. I want my money back because that is insane. No way. And people are going to yell and say, oh, that's not true. How much do you want to bet on that? When you have a country of 340 million people, I bet you there's several thousand that have slipped through the cracks. And you might say, oh, it's only a few thousand. It doesn't matter. Those are checks that have been sent out for decades. That is a lot of money at the end of the day. That could have gone to help people that actually are around and that actually need the help.
Canceling the electric vehicle mandate and cutting out costly and burdensome regulations. That's one that definitely needs to be put in place. The electric vehicle mandate killed so many jobs, cost a lot of car manufacturers a lot of future production that they had planned. Personally, electric vehicles are kind of shit. Hybrids, I like the concept, but then you're adding in 2 drivetrains to worry about, and if one goes out, do you have the reliability of the other one? I'm not a car guy. Gas pedal go vroom. That's really what I know. I can do the basic shit. I know I fail as a man there, but the the people that have made advances in car technology magically end up dying. So that's a thing
that's always been a problem.
Yeah.
What I would say as somebody that knows a lot about the industry is the EPA is really a bigger problem even than that. Yes, the electric vehicle mandate has been a huge problem because, quite frankly, as we've discussed in our previous episodes, our infrastructure cannot handle more electric cars. There's already rolling blackouts in places of California, especially in the summer. There is not enough lithium on the planet to actually build enough batteries for all these cars. For everybody.
But we did find a new deposit out west,
which is nice,
or a rather large one.
But even so, it's going to take years and years, if not decades, to build all the manufacturing, refining, and everything else. It just simply put, you cannot legislate, hey, everybody needs to use this type of vehicle. That's like telling everyone in the country, hey, you all got to drive a sedan now. No trucks and no minivans. It's like, well, no, that's just not going to work. I see it as no different. Number two, the other issue we have is with the EPA. They're enforcing environmental regulations based off what's called the CAFE standards. And emissions are based on the size of the vehicle. So one of the problems we have in this country is you have large vehicles that are made oversized purposely so they can run engines in them that are not efficient, or vice versa. All the smaller vehicles have to have such tiny efficient engines that they're non-reliable. One of the things that we're seeing, if you guys look it up, Kia has a big problem with this, as well as a few other manufacturers, to where if you follow the manufacturer's recommendations on certain things, the engines will fail within 100,000 miles and they have to replace them. Now, the reason why I'm getting specific with this is every year, these emission standards get higher and higher and they require more and more efficiency. To give you an idea, Toyota even had to develop a special type of oil. They're now at OW8 and OW16 for some of their vehicles. There's a lot of vehicles now, there's no such thing as 5W30 for some of them. And even then with the OW16 or even OW8 or 10, depending, it's getting weird. The only reason why I say that is because it's getting more and more costly to do these simple maintenance items, as well as after a long time, these tolerances grow and grow, the emissions get worse and worse, and then all of a sudden now your cars are failing for emissions even though they're only a couple of years old, and they're just inherently unreliable. So yes, these emissions standards absolutely are killing the economy. They're killing the automotive industry. And even more importantly, they're not allowing companies to make models of cars that are actually for the benefit of Americans. That's why you're seeing a lot of the muscle cars go away. You're seeing a lot of trucks now having 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder engines. They're getting rid of most of the V8s because they can't handle them, or the V8s are only for commercially extremely large trucks. Like, have you ever looked at the development of even like the F-150, the size change over the last 15, 20 years?
Oh, yeah, it's gotten smaller.
Well, no, it's doubled in size. Sit on the inside of an F-150 from the late 90s
okay,
versus now. The actual square footage of it is a lot bigger because they have to meet emission standards. So the problem is... I
guess I'm thinking of like the foreign trucks that have come in to compete with them.
Oh, yeah, by the way, most of those are illegal.
Trucks.
Most of those are illegal now.
How so?
Did you know in other countries they have much smaller trucks even made by American companies that are not considered legal in the US because they don't meet our safety standards?
Wow.
Even Chevy makes, it was a Toyota, maybe it's Toyota. They make like a $10,000 or $20,000 truck brand new. That's a great little truck. It can't be sold in the US because of our CAFE standards.
Oh, I know what truck you're talking about. That little like tuk-tuk truck.
No, those are even cheaper. There are a ton of vehicles outside the US that would be awesome to have. So for example, like Utes, like, in Africa, in Australia, how they have basically El Caminos.
Yeah.
They're called Utes, UTES. They're illegal in America because of emissions. But the reality is you can buy pickups over there. They're basically just a sedan front end with a pickup back end. That way average people can get a vehicle to do truck stuff. And that's not allowed here because of our... Sorry, I went like a 5-minute tirade there, but it's actually really bad to the point where it's really hurting the industry. And that needs to change.
So, yeah, we're almost to the end of the Trump stuff. Cut federal funding for any schools pushing critical race theory, radical gender ideology, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our kids, while also keeping men out of women's sports. That last one, I think, is a rather important one. If men want to be women in their lives, that's fine with them, fine with me. If they want to compete in sports, then let's make a whole subcategory of men who want to be women and compete at women's standards, and just let them all compete together.
Just have a non-gendered league. At that point, that's it. Just be like, hey, if you want to have a mixed gendered league for stuff, I really don't care. But there are certain sports, especially contact sports, to where, like, I'm sorry, it's not safe.
No,
it's really not safe. And it's also, I feel bad for all these women that have really tried their entire lives. They've really set themselves apart. They put in all this effort. And for a guy that's like ranked 500 in the country to come by and be like, yep, I'm now the best woman at blank. It's not fair to those people. And my heart does go out to those people that generally do have to deal with like gender dysphoria or something like that. I'm lucky to where I am very clearly a guy and very happy to be here. So my heart goes out to people that generally have that to deal with. But that being said, I don't think that's useful as an excuse to beat the crap out of people and to make it unfair in a sport. It's not the right way to do it.
No, not at all. And when it comes to supporting women, I love women. I support women completely. So much so that I even grew my own set of boobs so that I would never be lonely on Friday night. Talk about commitment. That's not an overnight thing.
Fuck you for making me laugh. Fuck you. I hope to God the summary for the AI thing, it says, and I quote, Pip grew boobs. I hope that's what it says at the end of this. I really do. It fucking better. The one thing I will say with that, the part that gets me, is the inappropriate sexual conduct and discussions that have been had around kids in some of these high schools. Yeah. And the fact that they've been showing things that, quite frankly, are pornographic material, and sometimes even way worse than what you consider it in that, to children without the consent of the parents, without anybody involved in it. Quite frankly, these schools need to be either charged or they need to be set down and said, hey, this is not okay. You need to discuss with the parents. And I do believe in like sex education for kids. Do not get me wrong on that. But there is a point between education and indoctrination. There is a point between informing and establishing a healthy habit or ideas versus getting kids to go down a path of
grooming.
Yes. That's the word I'm looking, a very grooming type behavior, but also just describing some stuff that's like, not for nothing, but you wouldn't even like hire a woman to do that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. Some of the stuff that I read and I saw that was in pamphlets, I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No.
Like, even professionals would say, oh, no, I'm not doing that. Like, come on.
The people that were pushing that honestly just need to be arrested and charged with pedophilia or whatever pedo charges they can tie them to.
Well, I hate to say it, but
child sex charges are not inappropriate in that matter because some of the stuff they were pandering was literal porn targeted to kids.
It is no different.
I'm sorry.
It is no different than some guy going to a library and distributing nudie mags to kids. I don't look at it any different.
Pretty much.
And also number two, I really feel like in with the education system, they always assume that if somebody's being sexually inappropriate with children, it's always a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, I hate to say it, but there are female teachers out there that get a thrill and a kick out of doing that kind of stuff. I don't know why. I don't know where it comes from. I'm not a psychologist, but it's really weird. And the fact that they're not charged equally is what really concerns me.
Right. And look at the rash of female teachers that have gone to jail in recent years for sleeping with the high school students and even getting pregnant by them.
Well, they should.
Where were they when I was in high school?
No, don't you dare. Don't you dare. my problem is they should be in jail. And they should be convicted just as often, just as much as the men. And sometimes
100%. It should be all about equality, right?
That's what you would think. But unfortunately, no.
Right.
And what many people don't realize is, because I've watched some documentaries on this kind of stuff, the amount of guys that, yes, maybe when they were 16, they're like, oh man, this is great. But they actually screw themselves over. And they're never able to have a proper relationship, and their sexuality is completely fucked. And that they become a degenerate or a pervert down the road. I'm not talking like, oh, just a little bit. No, I mean like actually down the fucking rabbit hole. So it's one of those things where, sure, people might joke about it, but it's something that actually I like to see the fact that Yeah, and joking's fine. I'm with it. But at the same point, it is shielding the fact that there are some serious issues that are going on and that they don't take it seriously enough to prosecute it. And I'm glad at least he's bringing up that, hey, maybe these things shouldn't be discussed. Because I think it should be discussed, but in a proper way. So if you're being inappropriate with kids, just don't be weird. Like, it's crazy. I'm not being inappropriate with kids right now or ever. It's crazy. It's so easy just to not do that. I don't know why for some people they just can't seem to like not. I don't get it.
Right.
I do not understand it. Maybe that's what frustrates me more than anything. It's just let kids be kids. Let them have their innocence. Not for nothing. The world, again, not to be depressing, but the world kind of sucks sometimes. Let them enjoy it while they can. You know?
Yeah.
Because fuck, once they start having to pay taxes, they'll realize, oh God, depression is a thing.
Yeah. It's bad enough. Let the kids be kids. They'll grow up soon enough.
Oh yeah.
So moving on, secure our elections, including elimination of same-day registration and voting, voter identification requirements, paper ballots, and proof of citizenship. I also am a fan of the way they do it in some of the Middle Eastern countries, where when you vote, you have to put the indelible ink fingerprint on the ballot.
Yeah.
And then it does not come off of your hands for like 72 hours.
Yeah.
So you can't just go vote somewhere else because you've got the ink on your hands.
How is it that the Middle East has figured out better voting?
How to have more secure elections than us.
Yeah. That number one, that boggles my mind. That shows that all these politicians are willfully in on this shit.
Yeah.
Second of all, I think he doesn't go far enough. It should be a national holiday. I think voting is so important for the average citizen that you should have it should be a paid holiday. And realistically, how it should be, that I think is the minimum. What we really should do is the idea that it's actually a week-long thing where you as an employee get to pick one day out of those 7 days to go. You take that off as a paid day, and that is your voting day. So let's just say if it happens from the 1st to the 7th of November or whatever, you just say, hey, I'm going to go vote on Thursday. Say, great, have a good day. You have to go out on Thursday and vote. That way you eliminate 3 problems. One, you eliminate the overcrowding, too many people trying to vote at the same time having issues. Number 2, you eliminate the problem of shutting everything down, having every company out, where they could stagger it between 7 days. I'm pretty sure most companies can figure out a way to work around it. And then number 3, you don't have to hire nearly as many people to actually run it. Because if you want to be a poll worker and work that for a while, a lot of people do that as a side job or something, or like older people do as a little bit of income. So now you can hire fewer people, but also they can make more money at doing it. And it makes it a lot easier on security, a lot easier on counting, a lot easier on everything else. But at the minimum, if you want to stick with it being one day, it better be a paid holiday. And that's something that Trump really needs to understand and realize, because the amount of people I know that don't vote because I got to work. I got shit to do. And you know what? A lot of jobs now, not for nothing. Do you know how many people that work that just a 9 to 5? No, not many people. I know a lot of people that have to work, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 6 a.m. to 7 or 8 p.m. They have other jobs, other things going on. A lot of people literally can't make the time even if they wanted to. And It's not right.
And also, I think that the pay that they give the poll workers should be substantial.
Yeah.
That's an extremely important job.
Why don't they hire mostly ex-police? I don't understand it.
Yeah, ex-police, veterans, people that are going to take it seriously.
I think they should get first priority.
Yeah.
What you do is you go, police and veterans, general first responders, and then you do a list of like jobs that people routinely have to be very responsible for other people, and you go down the list from there.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say, oh, you're I'm playing favorites. It's like, well, for a job like that, yes, I'm going to. For election security, absolutely, because there shouldn't be any question. The fact that we have any questions about any election in 2025 is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, that's terrible. And lastly, unite our country by bringing it to new and record levels of success. Whether you love Trump, hate Trump, love Daddy Elon, hate Daddy Elon, love Biden, hate Biden, that is something that every single American can and should be able to get behind. Success for America is success for you.
I just wish he would have stated exactly what his metrics are, what he's looking for in that.
Yeah.
But I assume that's the obvious underlying point for anybody that ever runs for office is, you want the country to be successful. But I hate to say it, I think there's been many people that have been in office lately that I can't agree that that was their goal. It seemed like, particularly under Biden, I hate to say it, but I don't know.
I feel like getting the country back to pre-COVID levels would be a pretty good measure of success.
Oh, yeah. That seems so far away, though, now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, can you believe next month is going to be 5 years since we started the shutdowns?
And
we're like 3 to 4 weeks away from
it was March 15th. Hit.
Yeah.
Like March 14th, March 15th. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
That was 5 years ago. That was 5 years ago. You know what's crazy? I think it was like March 12th or March 11th. 5 years ago, I was joking with everybody saying, that this COVID thing sucks. We're going to be, hopefully out of it by the summer. And I'm looking at it going, oh, fuck, I was so wrong. I was hoping it was going to be like a 6-month ordeal.
Uh-huh. No. So a couple of critiques that I wanted to talk about for the Trump administration.
Yeah.
The cutting of the price cap on meds. I personally would like to know why that was done. Was it tied to other issues? And will it be put back in place? The medicines in question that I am targeting are albuterol and insulin and a few of the other like critical life-saving meds. Those had at one time been capped at like $35, I think it was.
Which is already high for what they are, but like fine.
Yeah, but that's an acceptable price that commercially out of pocket Americans are willing to pay. It's something that's affordable. And with the removal of that cap, they're now skyrocketed. I think the albuterol went up to like $800 and insulin's back up to like $1,000.
Damn.
Yeah, there was a report that a man died recently because he couldn't afford his inhaler medication.
That should never even be a factor.
No. But again, like you said earlier, our insurance is shit. So even though with insurance, the drugs are still unaffordable. So I want to know why that was done. Will it be put back in place? If it was tied to bad legislation, okay, I get that. Put it back in place, though. That's like a one single line item. Do it.
We really need to start going after these drug companies and telling them, hey, if you're selling this stuff for like $8 or $10 a bottle in Canada or in France, you can't charge like 100 times or 1,000 times that in America. No way.
There was recently a guy, Luigi
Mangione,
manager something. Yeah, he went and had a talk with an insurance rep about something.
It was a discussion.
Maybe some more talks like that need to happen. I'm not suggesting violence, but fuck, something's got to happen for these insurance assholes to realize people can and will only take so much.
But unfortunately, a lot of it has to do with legislation. They're allowed to do this stuff, and I will call out Obama's
just because they're allowed doesn't mean they have to, though.
Gibbs. Yes, but that's the thing. We are a country ruled by lawyers and laws. If they're allowed to, they're going to. The Affordable Care...
Then take the Shakespearean approach. Kill all the lawyers.
No. I understand, but it's more the problem of really the Affordable Care Act done under Obama is really what screwed a lot of this up. Because he put in so many regulations that were not only quite cost prohibitive, but quite frankly, people were lied to. That whole thing of you can keep your doctor, you don't have to change, that was bullshit. The fact they were going to keep with pre-existing conditions, that was bullshit. They put in so many regulations and they made it so complex. The reality of it is the fact that healthcare changes state by state, the fact that you can't just buy a general healthcare plan and all this other stuff. No, it is ridiculous because the government decided they were going to compete in the area of healthcare rather than letting the companies compete. And how it should have always been is the case of, hey, you guys are allowed to make a profit, but you are not allowed to neglect people. What should be happening is just like if you were taking care of somebody personally, if you neglect them, you go to jail. The same thing should happen to insurance companies. And number two, they should be hiring medical professionals, doctors, to sign off on either approvals or non-approvals or declines for any and all treatments. They can't just have somebody behind a book sheet going saying, well, sorry, you're too old to get this. Fuck you. No. I'm sorry. Absolutely not. The fact that is we have a medical system that's not run by medical professionals. And that's been the case since the Affordable Care Act. It was a problem before, but it's gotten exponentially worse.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So, being that we are already past the hour mark, let's try to burn through some of the Biden.
Oh, don't worry. I think his list is a little shorter. So I have to do a disclaimer here.
Okay. Just disclaim.
Joe Biden, I actually had to write this down because it took me a while for research. Joe Biden has never had a fully written listed platform for the 2024 campaign. This list that I have and the other things I have found are from PolitiFact, which has been cited by CNN and MSNBC. There is no official listed bullet point platform like what Trump and other Republicans have had. This is a problem I have had trying to research with the Democratic Party for every candidate they have had after Obama. They have not had listed bullet points of what they wanted to do. You can look it up on the whitehouse.gov websites. You can look it up on Joe Biden's website. It was never officially listed, even for Kamala. It was never. So, for anybody trying to say, oh, he wasn't trying to do that, wasn't trying to do this, you can argue with PolitiFact, you can argue with Snopes, you can argue with CNN or MSNBC, because that's where I'm pulling all this from. And quite frankly, it is very annoying to try to argue with people when they've never officially had a platform. So, for the love of God, for those people that run for office in the future, have a platform, because at least with Trump, we can hold them accountable. With someone like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, it's fugazi. It's just nothing.
Maybe that was the point.
Well, that's the problem. Is how can you say they did a good job when there's no measuring stick? How do you know? You never know.
Well, then they did a good job.
It enrages me.
Also, I would like to point out that during the campaign, Kamala was her website was just a redirect to a donation page.
I remember
for like the longest time.
I remember the Discord. I showed everybody this because I tried to look up her platform. Every single page it was just donate. That's all it was.
There was no. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're hoping to achieve. It was just give us your money.
It was here's money.
You don't get a say in this. Just give us your money.
It's Democrat good, Republican bad. Give us money. And it's very hard for me to take any candidate seriously as somebody that hates both parties to be able to pick if one of them is at least telling me what they want to do and the other one's like, they're bad, give me money. No, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, because we know what the Democrats tend to do with money that they're donated. They roll it up and snort drugs off the White House desk.
Some people are privileged enough to do that. That is...
Yeah.
That, by the way...
I'd like to do that one time before I die. I just want to roll up snort a hog line off the desk in the White House one time before I die.
Yeah, but do you realize it's going to be laced with so much other shit from all the previous presidents doing stuff? Like, are you
That's the goal.
Are you willing to have some Monica Lewinsky sweat on that? That's the question to you.
I want to find the corner of the desk that's got like JFK's ass cheek still imprinted on it with some Ronald Reagan tears of misery and Obama ball sweat and some W. Bush ball hair. What? Just give me that corner and let me snort that hog line, please.
The fuck?
This is all for the AI, by the way.
The AI at the end of this episode is going to kill itself. I'm just going to tell you that right now. You know, what concerns me is I don't know if you pre-prepared that or not, but what concerns me is if you did pre-prepare that, you thought about all day Barack Obama's balls.
No, that was all just from the hip.
That was from the hip?
At all.
So then how often
all
do you think about Barack
hip.
Obama's balls then on that desk?
Not at all. I actually think about Michael Obama's balls, his husband.
I am not touching that. Nope. I'm not getting involved with that. You can do that from your own personal stuff. Nope. Nope. You have fun with that one. You have fun.
Well, he has fun with it.
I'll let you and Candace Owens take over that one because I know she's been discussing that. But anyways.
Yep.
So the list I have here from Joe Biden, from his accomplishments and or from things that they spoke about, take it with a grain of salt, and there's some things we're going to go through and discuss. Now, we know during the campaign, he talked about reunification. He talked about supporting immigration. He talked about trying to make our school systems better, trying to make our military better. It was a lot of general kind of stuff, but again, stuff that most people would support in some way or another. I understand. However, what actually happened is something very different. I have gone through a list of things that I have tried to find that maybe were true and that other sources have said, but it's been very difficult to find anything that's actually correct. So we're going to go through, see what we can find. Put it that way. So the number one.
All right, let's rapid fire this bitch.
The number one I saw from everything was stopped a 30-year streak of federal inaction on gun violence by signing the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act that created enhanced background checks, closed the boyfriend loophole, which is interesting, and provided funds for youth mental health. Now, number one, there have been background checks to buy firearms, and there is no way around it. They keep saying there's a way around it. There isn't. You go to buy one, you have a background check.
So, the only way around a background check for a firearm is a private transaction in a state that does not require a background check for private transactions, which is most. But that's the only way you're getting a firearm without a background check.
Even so, the amount of crimes that are committed by those that do that are so few.
Well, it's actually every crime. Well, no. I'm sorry. 97, I think, %-ish crimes are committed with firearms that were obtained through deals done with no background checks.
Well, but that's black market. That's not just
exactly.
It's not just Joe selling it to John, who also has a firearms license that wants to do. No, it's always the person that's selling and buying. Both parties are illegal at doing it illegally. Yeah. That's, I think, the difference where Joe Biden was going after people that, regardless, you shouldn't be able to sell privately, which
like you to me or me to you.
Yeah, which is insane because we're both law-abiding people. Whereas the problem always is it's people that already have the firearms illegally selling it to somebody that wants to buy them illegally to do things illegally with them. So I don't know how you're going to stop that when they've already committed the crime. It's already been done. There's no way of fixing that. You can't just go back in time or undo something. Like, no.
That's like calling somebody who crossed into the country illegally from the southern border a law-abiding citizen because they haven't broken any other laws.
When that's not true.
You still broke the law to get here, so you're already on the books for it.
Hate to say it, but yeah, you've already committed that crime. Yeah, and by the way, if you do that in any other country, they arrest you. I'm just throwing that out there.
Or worse.
That's true.
There are some countries where you cross that border, they will shoot you.
Oh, yeah.
They take their border security a little more seriously than we do for some reason. I don't know.
You go to a country like Singapore where they'll just whip you in the street.
Yeah. Now, as far as the boyfriend loophole goes, a proposed check that was put in place for that was that during the 4473, or is it 37? I cannot remember the name of the form. I haven't filled one out in years at this point. But when you're filling that out, it should be allowed to say, yes, this is being purchased as a gift. This is the information of the person that's being gifted to. That way they don't have to be present. They don't have to have the surprise ruined, but you can still get the background check done on the spot.
See, where I'm from, that's illegal.
Well, it was never put in place, so it...
No, from where I'm from in my state, you can only buy it for yourself.
Well, okay, so as it stands, you can purchase a firearm for another person if that person is there with you and they fill out the form. Yeah. You are legally allowed to provide the funds for somebody as long as they fill out the paperwork. But what was being proposed was, hey, I want to get my significant other this for Christmas. I don't want them to know about it. I want it to be a big surprise. I'm going to fill out the form to show that I'm allowed to buy it. I'm going to fill out this other section of the form to show that they're allowed to actually receive it. That's what was being proposed.
Okay.
But it was never put into action because they're not there to show that, yes, this is actually their information.
Okay.
I get that.
Yeah.
But it still would have been nice.
So then the question becomes, under Biden, was gun violence down? Was it affected at all? No.
Because they went after guns that were not being used in crimes.
Exactly.
They went after the scary black rifles that were used in something like 0.01% of crimes.
Yep.
And unfortunately, they were only used in the high profile things.
So it's one of those things where they're going after the wrong people for the wrong reason, and they're not handling it appropriately. They're not actually asking the officers and the people on the ground, like, hey, what would actually help? So that's a big do nothing. So I consider that a fail. Absolutely not. This one was the overall number 2 one that I saw, which I was cackling at 10 a.m. this morning, laughing my ass off, saying that this is somehow a win. It's not. They're saying that Biden ended.
If they can claim this as a win, that tells you how bad off that it was.
Yeah. They were saying that he ended the longest war in American history by pulling the troops out of Afghanistan. Now, to understand the colossal failure of this is the same situation where we pulled out of Afghanistan. We did not have anything set up, no measure set up. We left well over, what was it, $80 billion worth of military equipment there. Granted,
it was a lot. I don't have.
Granted, a lot of it was outdated, but I don't care. That's still our stuff that we paid for. Our tax dollars had paid for that shit. It was left over there. The entire air base was completely overrun. There were American soldiers that were killed. There were American citizens that were lost. There were innocent people that were lost due to planes hitting them and debris and everything else and things going on. Those weapons and military vehicles and ammunition were used to kill people throughout the country, if not the world. So,
and they are now in the hands of the people we were fighting. Yeah.
We have this insane history of the CIA and other parts of the government funding our enemies. Well, guess what? That was the biggest one-time transfer of any sort of funds or value to a non-American country outside of like a organized country like Israel or Ukraine, which we ended up doing that shortly after, by the way, with Ukraine, with a $200 billion. So
I'm not entirely unconvinced that wasn't planned. Say, hey, we'll just get out of the country. We'll give you all the stuff that's there. Just leave people alone.
Well, what's interesting is that was previously planned by Trump, but that was under the same administration and military that lied to him about us having missiles and troops in Afghanistan and Iraq beforehand. So, because if anyone wants to look it up, our military leaders actually lied to Trump about our military presence in the Middle East at many points. And that's why during that missile crisis that happened during his first presidency, there was a lot of confusion when he said, oh yeah, pull the troops out or do this and that. And they said, yep, they're all pulled out when they weren't. We left hundreds over there. So that same military, Milley, I think is part of the freaking problem, lying to him about all this stuff. When they set this up, they were setting up to pull out of Afghanistan, which, to be fair, I understand why. It wasn't the right way of doing it regardless, but I do understand at some point you either got to shit or get off the pot. It's like either we did something good or we did something bad, but either way, it's over. We're done with being the police force of the world. But to say this is
Team America. Yeah. and by the way, we did touch on some of the stuff in our previous episode. The government is lying to you. So if you haven't heard that one, go back and check that one out.
Highly recommend that one. That was a good one.
That was a really good one.
But yeah, to say that that's a win is absolutely not. No, absolutely not. The next point they were talking about was he supposedly cut child poverty in half through the American Rescue Plan. Now, I don't know how, because I was trying to look this up, how they were measuring or how they were saying that child poverty was cut in half. But I find very interesting that inflation has gone up so much under his presidency and food costs and everything else, to where if you look at the results now, they're even worse than before when Biden started. So I don't know where people are getting that number from, but saying that he cut child poverty in half, clearly it didn't stick. Maybe it happened for a month or 2 months or 6 months, or maybe when those $1,400 checks first came out during COVID before all inflation hit. Sure, I'm sure there was a period of time where technically for that short period, it was cut in half. Like, sure, but also, not for nothing, child poverty is a very subjective idea with how the metrics are done. So I am always skeptical when somebody says, oh yeah, child poverty's gotten way worse and way better. It's like, well, how are you measuring it? And from everything I can see, because of inflation going up with wages being stagnant, there was a point, I am sure, when those $1,400 checks came in, to where, yes, there was a point, a little blip, where it was cut in half. And then now, with inflation, is immediately, it's crashed. So,
yeah. All the good that was done has been erased and then some.
Oh, by far. The interesting thing here, the capped prescription drug price at $2,000 per year for seniors on Medicare through the Inflation Reduction Act. I can tell you this right now from the personal experience of what I'm dealing with. That's BS. Because I take care of family members that are older, that have had strokes and had issues. And I will tell you this right now. When you're spending $300 or $400 a month on medication and they say they capped it, that's a fucking lie. Absolutely not. No. They might have put it in policy, but there's no enforcement on it. So I have no clue whether I try to look it up. I have no clue whether that's actually helping people or not. Because it's one thing to write a bill, but if it's not enforced, it doesn't mean anything.
Have you ever questioned the insurance companies or the drug dispensaries that you're getting the pills? Like, hey, look, I've already paid X dollars. Why am I still paying for this? I thought this was law.
What I was able to do was, thankfully, we were able to switch her after the first year to a different medication that was a third the cost. But what that meant was we never really hit our deductible. So we're paying less. It's like half as much. But we're still under that deductible. Because she's in her 80s. So, I mean, it's not like she has a lot of money. Yeah. So it's that, again, that American prescription problem of like, oh, yeah, it's only $200 a month. It's like, well, yeah, but when they've got 5 or 6 or 8 pills, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah. So achieving historically low unemployment rates after the pandemic caused the unemployment rates to skyrocket. My question on that, though, is how many of those jobs that you were saying that they were saying were created were actually just the jobs that went away coming back and getting refilled? It's easy to say, oh, look, I made 50,000 jobs last month, when the month before 50,000 jobs went away.
Well, this goes hand in hand with item 10. Because item 10 on that list is that he supposedly created more jobs in 1 year, 6.6 million, than any other president in U.S. history. Number one, the president is not responsible for creating jobs. Most of those jobs, hopefully, are in the private sector, not in the public sector with the government. Those jobs were not created. You are 100% right, Pip. They were coming back from jobs that already previously existed. I will 100% agree with that. Especially one of the biggest metrics to look at, if you look on Indeed and look at the metrics for the same jobs before and after, it is eerily close for most sectors. Now, obviously, we've just...
Government did get bigger, though. Government jobs did get much bigger.
Which is the problem. Is the private sector, most of those jobs came back, but it shrunk. Whereas the public sector, the government, hired so many more people in so many different ways because they were getting more funding. So it's an unfortunate issue if he's saying, oh, he created all these jobs. No, you didn't. Because if you look at before COVID and then after, we are still in a job shortage. Look at how many people that are having a hard time getting jobs.
We had a really weird job situation pre-COVID. We had job openings that couldn't be filled because we had a skills deficit. And we still do, to be fair. A lot of those job postings either are stagnant or have gone away because they just couldn't be filled.
Absolutely.
So, by the way, if you're younger and listening to this, look into AI jobs, engineering jobs, trade type jobs. Don't worry about your college degree jobs. Those are probably going to go away because they could be replaced by AI. Get your hands-on jobs and get the training and the skills to be relevant for a while.
I as someone that can speak to this, as somebody that did go to college for an academic job and then switch to something more hands-on, it is amazing the opportunities you will find in a more blue-collar type environment. And it's incredible the life-work balance you might have that you might not think that you would have. So I would say give it a shot, try out a few different things, but don't think that college is your only answer. And also, not for nothing, adjust your lifestyle and expect accordingly. Aim to have an average lifestyle with a good family, good people around you. You'll be far happier than trying to chase only the money.
Yeah, and be realistic as well. When you come out of college, if you go to college, you're not going to be making six figures like comfortably for many, many years. You go to trade school, you're not going to have the debt that you would have going to college, but you're also going to have shit jobs for the first year or two. But then you'll get into some better money and you won't have the debt to worry about. So you'll be making better, you'll come out further ahead, because even though, comparatively speaking, a trade person versus a college person, you go after a couple of years, you're making maybe the same money, but you don't have those student loans to pay off because your trade school only cost $8,000 versus the college degree that cost $80,000. And now you have to pay it back and you're only making $60,000 a year. So you're further ahead. Just tirade, micro level.
Absolutely.
Micro works. Great site, great program. If you're younger, get tied up in that shit.
Oh yeah. And I would say if you really want to go to college, the best combo you can have, get a business degree and then go after a trade, because then you can open up your own company and that's how you make the real money in this world.
Absolutely.
Anyways, so there were also, what was spoken about with Biden was, this is something I find very contentious and I'm very curious about it. He imposed a 15% minimum corporate tax on some of the largest corporations in the country, ensuring that they pay their fair share as part of the historic Inflation Reduction Act. Now, why do I not believe this? Because I distinctly remember under Biden seeing...
Right there is why. My little sub-note.
Well, I'm getting to that in just a second. But why do I not believe that when I distinctly remember during his entire presidency hearing millions of millennials and Gen Zers saying, tax the rich, they need to be taxed, these corporations need to be taxed, they need to pay their fair share. Well, supposedly he did it. But with our tax system the way it is, they always have a way around it. They have teams of lawyers that can find ways around this. And I would agree with you, they did not do enough to limit the write-offs they got, allowing them to still get away with paying basically nothing. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
It's the problem of every single president does something to appease people without fixing the inherent basic problem of the tax system, which is it is a system designed by lawyers to benefit lawyers. If you don't have teams of lawyers to write your tax, for your company, you're never going to get ahead. Whereas if you're a company like Microsoft or Pepsi or Amazon or whatever, you hire not just tens, not just hundreds, but thousands of lawyers, that their idea is to save you every penny to justify their existence. So they work to justify their own existence by saving you money. You'll never beat them. They're always going to be better than you. No. That's the problem with our tax system. So basically, while Joe Biden said he did something, I have not seen any ounce of evidence that it actually helped anybody.
Well, I believe he did do something. I just think that it was a half measure. He didn't do the second half that needed to be done with it to actually make it, matter.
I'd agree with you 100%.
So giving Medicare the power to negotiate prescription drug prices through the Inflation Reduction Act while also reducing government health spending.
If he reduced spending, how did we add $4 to $5 trillion of debt through his presidency? No.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Also, Medicare, the power to negotiate prescription drug prices. I deal with that literally every day for the people I take care of. No, they don't.
If they negotiate the wrong way.
They've negotiated to make more money.
They negotiate so you're paying more.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. Holding Vladimir Putin accountable for his invasion of Ukraine by imposing stiff economic sanctions, which did literally nothing to stop the war and continued to fund Ukraine to the tune of almost $500 billion in money and equipment.
So
we talked about this in the last episode, actually.
Yeah. What scares me is they think this is somehow a win by saying, oh yeah, we're just going to put strong sanctions on you. You're not going to do anything. Really? You think that matters to someone like him? And also, not for nothing, you would rather trade and say, hey, we're going to put in tariffs rather than, I don't know, stopping a war that literally fucking kills people? You think that's more important?
Gibbs, that was an administration that literally went, you did a bad thing. We're going to make you pay more money. Oh, hey, here's the money for the oil that we needed.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's great? A lot of Europe still gets their oil from Russia still. You know what?
And natural gas.
Natural gas. They didn't change a goddamn thing.
He's got them completely by the balls on natural gas.
Because they refuse to be energy independent.
Uh-huh.
And that's their own problem.
They won't drill. They won't install green backup supplies. I don't know. I can't solve Europe's power issues. Maybe they should install the modular reactors. I don't know.
That's what I've been saying. If it's out there.
Yeah.
But no, the
boosted.
I was just going to say the handling of the Russia-Ukraine war was such a big loss for Biden. He did not show any strength. He did not show any unity. He either had two options. Either one, bring Ukraine into the fold and bring them as a NATO country. But what that would have meant is they would have been under NATO scrutiny and our laws about corruption, which Ukraine was already under investigation for. Or option two, you tell them, hey, they're not a NATO ally. We're going to let them be, let it happen and get out of the way. It's either not your business or it is. You got to pick one. But you can't keep giving money and resources and people away for absolutely zero benefit to this country. Absolutely not. No.
Yeah, he didn't want the corruption investigations going on because of his son's involvement.
He and his son's involvement.
That would have pointed back to him. Oh, yeah, 100%. And a lot of that came to light, too. That's the bad part. But boosting the budget of the IRS by nearly $80 billion to reduce tax evasion and increase revenue, which was then spent on the salaries of those agents and did not yield a significant enough return, also caused audits on regular Americans who had never been audited for good reason, and caused more erroneous filing errors on taxes than ever recorded for the tax years of 2022 and 2023. During those tax years, more tax records got flagged erroneously, and people got sent notices saying their taxes were wrong and they owed when they actually did not. Yay, government efficiency.
Not only that, it's the problem of they're justifying saying, oh yeah, we gained $80 billion in revenue when they pissed away trillions in wasted spending. It's the government saying, I'm not stealing from you. When, imagine this, imagine you got a pizza from the government and the government said, I gave you a pizza, but really you get a tiny little sliver slice. And they said, oh yeah, there's our $80 billion. Meanwhile, as Trump and Elon Musk are finding out, oh yeah, the government wasted $4.7 trillion over the last 4 or 5 years. It's like, oh boy, we got 80 billion as we lost 4.7 trillion. Just to nothing, to military spending and everything else. No, it's not a win. It's again, another loss. You are trying to extort money from Americans, the average Americans like you and I'm sure like most of the listeners are, who are just trying to get by. We're not gaming the system. We're not taking advantage of the system. We're not doing anything else. We're just trying to do what we can. But it's insane. It's not a win. You think it's a win, but it's not.
Right. We already talked about the job creation thing, so I think we can kind of gloss over that. Reducing the healthcare premiums under the Affordable Care Act by $800 a year as part of the American Rescue Plan. I don't know whose premiums got reduced. Mine went up every year since then.
Yep.
I'm not paying less than ever before, period. I don't know who is.
To give you an idea, until my recent switch, I was paying over $800 a month.
God.
Yep. I was literally paying more than a car payment to get insurance that did nothing for me.
Jesus. Now, I'll say I'm lucky to have a job where they're actually paying a very significant portion of my healthcare premium. That's a very big perk of the job. If I did not have that, I would not have. And the insurance is still not that great.
No.
I'm still on like the high deductible type plan, I believe. Which if you're in good health, you do not need a fancy medical plan. a high deductible plan with a health savings account is realistically all you need. If you don't have a bunch of meds that you need and you're not on like a bunch of maintenance medication,
exactly.
You just need the occasional doctor visit covered, emergency accident type level shit. That's really all you need for the first probably 40 to 50 years of your life. The health savings account, not the flex spending account, because that goes away. Health savings account, those are great because they roll over and they turn into accounts that can be invested into and eventually borrowed against later in life.
I didn't know that.
If those are started younger for people or earlier for people, they're actually really, really good to do. It's your money. You get the benefit of it.
Yeah, but the problem is that assumes you're going to keep the same employer for a long period of time because many employers.
That's the issue. You cannot take the HSA with you when you change jobs. So over in Europe, what they do is they essentially have an HSA tied to your social that works like Social Security. And when you turn 18, you choose like a general pool of doctors.
Yeah.
Or if you have like a specialist that you want to choose, you choose them. The money goes in, and then when you go in, you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. You just say, hey, I'm here for XYZ reason. And they pull from that account.
Okay. I didn't know that.
It is literally that simple. It's not a hard system to implement, but less people in government will get money into their pockets, and that's why we won't do it.
And corporations will make less money.
But it would help the American people, so that's why we won't do it.
And unfortunately, that means corporations will make less money. And hospitals.
Exactly.
Hospitals make a ton of money out of being able to overcharge you. And people not fighting the bill. That's the one biggest advice.
Get your bill itemized. What? Request an itemized bill if you're ever in the hospital.
And also, can't medical bills not be counted against your
your credit anymore?
So just
medical debt, and I think student loans are even being counted differently now.
Yeah, so if you have to just tell them to F off and give them $50 a month or $20 a month or whatever, do that payment plan. Nothing they can do about it.
Yep. Also, on the back of your bills from the hospitals and doctors, there's a thing to fill out to get your bill reduced. Fill it out regardless of your financial situation. Just do it. They might knock off 10%. They might knock off 20%. They might knock off half. They might not knock off anything, but it's worth a try.
Not only that, but from what I know, a lot of hospitals, they get their like yearly budget to give out that kind of stuff for free. Schedule big, if you can, schedule big surgeries at the beginning of the year. Because they're more likely to give you money. But if you wait till like Christmas, they don't have anything in the budget. That's been gone since June.
Nope, it's gone. Yep.
And it's gone.
Yep. All right, we have your money invested here, and it's gone.
One of the best South Park jokes ever.
Oh God, yes. That one in the World of Warcraft episode and the medicinal KFC episode.
Medicinal KFC is it's I'm not like a huge South Park fan, but it's probably my favorite episode just because Cartman's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. Yes. and the dad.
Oh.
Stan or
is it Stan? No.
What's the dad's name? Stan is the character whose dad he is.
Oh, I forget. I totally forget.
Yeah.
I really don't watch South Park that much.
Me either. But you guys all know who we're talking about. Someone just yelled it at their car's dash right there.
But anyways, so I think in conclusion, what we can understand about Joe Biden's presidency, between the failed foreign...
He was not in charge.
Well, that kind of becomes the second half of it, where it was kind of a weekend at Bernie situation where he really wasn't in charge. You're absolutely right. He had more failures than successes. I have a hard time finding anything that he actually succeeded with that's going to benefit us long term. I have a hard time finding anything that's going to put Americans in a better situation, whether it be a year after his presidency, 10 years, 100 years. He's not somebody that was respected on the international stage. He was constantly falling asleep at big meetings. His son was getting away with literally committing mass crimes, drugs, alcohol, distribution of firearms, or was it illegal disposal of a firearm, as well as his possession.
Illegal possession.
Disposed of it too.
I don't know if he got rid of one, but I know he got one and lied on the form to get it.
That's true too. As well as, just doing such a long list of things besides accepting money from other countries and other governments. And it's just, the more you look into it, the list goes on and on. Whereas Trump, sure, he has his controversies, but I will say, at least he keeps his promises for the most part and generally does things that will benefit most people. yes, he could be a bit crass, and in his first presidency especially, said a lot of stupid shit, and that was part of one of my issues with him. Is his first presidency, he didn't uphold his promises, and he said a lot of stupid shit, or it seems like he's learned from that.
If he would have served kind of behind the curtain, stayed off of Twitter, and just kept his mouth shut, I think he would have been a far more successful president, and at least a less hated president.
Oh, yeah. But I will say, having Mike Pence as his vice president didn't help him at all. Mike Pence
Not at all.
stabbed him in the back. Whereas I would also argue for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris was absolutely fucking useless as a vice president. She did nothing to help him. Well, she was supposed to be the border czar. She was supposed to be in charge of the border, and
she never even went to the border.
She did not do a goddamn thing to help. And I will say, I think the benefit to all this is Trump's second term. You notice how he's not going online saying stupid shit. And I have to give credit. I do think J.D. Vance is arguably one of the best people in politics I've ever seen.
Yeah. He does not pull punches. I think give him 4 years to mature, and I think he actually might stand a pretty reasonable shot at being has a good chance of being a good
I think
leader.
he could. He's one of the only people that comes from a background that's like normal people. And he doesn't come from some rich background.
I think he'll be a likable candidate.
Oh, I absolutely think so. So I guess at some point from what we've seen from Trump so far, he is keeping his promises. He is investigating stuff. And as it is, as I saw earlier this morning when Kash Patel on Friday got appointed to FBI director, he's actively going after the previous administration for the crimes that were committed that they know. Not to mention they're investigating, grabbing servers, doing everything. So you find it very interesting, as we spoke about in the last podcast, when people in DC are trying to find lawyers, trying to sell their houses, move out of countries, they're searching up countries without extradition treaties. Bad shit went down. So hopefully, maybe this time Drain the Swamp is actually a real thing. But I hope he actually drains both sides of the swamp, not just one.
Yeah, not just one. Got to keep it fair. Got to get rid of all the bad eggs, not just some.
Because there are bad eggs on both sides, let me tell you.
Yep.
All right, and I guess the only...
sorry,
you go.
I think that's pretty much all we had to cover.
Yeah, what I was going to say is if you guys are curious about any of our references here, I do have big references I'll be posting in the Discord. I can just list it off really, really quick. I was pulling from the Trump White House archives for Donald Trump, as well as donaldjtrump.com/platform, as well for Joe Biden for what I could find. It's a website it's a link from PolitiFact, from the Truth of Media, from Biden's Promises, as well as from candems.org, Joe Biden's greatest accomplishments as president of the United States. This is obviously just a cursory thing, but that's from what I could gather from about 4 to 6 hours of research and looking everything up.
Yeah. Join the Discord. Find all the stuff that we post in there. It gets weird. It gets fun. It gets trying to make it weird.
Oh, don't worry, it's weird. You're there. It's weird, but
I know. I
welcome the people in the comments at home. Anybody else, join the Discord. And if you disagree with something that we have said or want to agree with it or let us know, please join. I love political discussions and things like that. So you are more than welcome to come, question us, comment, let us know, interact with us.
I'm going to come.
I hope to God not right now. That's not my job. I was going to say, but seriously, join us over there. Please follow us on all of our socials. Interaction is a huge thing, and we really appreciate, all the listeners we've had, all the interaction. It's been going really well. And we're so happy to now bring this to you in a video format. And let us know if there's any problems or issues or concerns, any kinks that we can work out here. Because
I like kinks.
You are a kink, but
I am a kink.
I'm sorry, just the way you said that. Anyway, you said that way too happy. Besides the point. So yeah, just let us know. We'd be more than happy to make some edits and some changes.
Hell yeah.
And I think, is that really about it? Is that,
Yeah, I didn't have anything else to add in. Just hit us up on the socials. Join in where you can. We're happy to know that you're yelling at your car's dashboard or your computer. But we'd love to have some more interactions and keep the episode ideas coming. But I think outside of that, we'll we'll just see you back here next week.